2 million years ago, the Demon King did something very terrible. He killed the gods and destroyed the sacred scrolls. Before ending his sorrowful life, the Demon King let a useless hero finish it all, separating the 4 universes at his death. However, when the Demon King was reborn, he introduced himself to his parents as Anos. Strangely, he grew into a man in just a week, unaware that his existence had been erased from the records of history and that the world around him was actually just an illusion. On the day of the entrance exam, the atmosphere grew tense when a girl, who was considered useless, stepped into the arena. At the same time, an ugly loser bumped into her, causing her to drop an important letter she had been holding tightly. At that moment, a handsome man named Anos came to her aid. The girl introduced herself as Misha, and unfortunately, her father was even more useless than her own family. As they started to walk away, a man named Zeps insulted Anos, calling him a fool just because he helped the girl. But Anos simply walked away as if the lackey didn't exist. Zeps, unwilling to back down and summoning his fire, shouted for Anos to respond. With a soft sigh, Anos blew out his fire. Using the power of his words, he easily forced Zeps to freeze in place, mentally torturing him as Zeps received punishment during the break. Inside the building, the first stage of the final exam was a duel between the applicants. When it was Anos' turn, he saw that his opponent was the ugly and worthless loser he already recognized. Despite that, the anti-demon armor blocked Anos' ability to speak and activate his powers. Zeps began summoning one of the 7 legendary swords to enhance his magic. As soon as the match started, Zeps rushed at Anos, ready to fight. However, with one exhale, the fire went out again. To console Zeps, who looked downcast due to his sad life, Anos promised not to make a single move for the rest of the match. Zeps, thinking he was making excuses because he felt weak, suddenly felt his entire body explode from within. Anos explained that this was all due to the power of his heartbeat, and the wave of vibrations began to destroy Zeps' insides. Even so, the loser didn't give up and continued to insult Anos, calling him ugly and worthless. Calmly, Anos covered his mouth with his shoe. After a moment, with a snap of his fingers, Zeps was completely obliterated. However, since Anos didn't want to end everything just like that, he decided to revive Zeps from the dead and asked if Zeps was ready to give up after experiencing death. Zeps remained stubborn and refused to surrender, so Anos killed him again and brought him back to life. When Zeps claimed he came from a royal lineage, Anos began to kill him hundreds of times in a second, letting him know they could do this for thousands of years. But before Anos snapped his fingers again, Zeps bent down and admitted that he had lost. For the 3rd stage of the exam, they then started the knowledge assessment, and the first question asked about the identity of the founding Demon King. Without hesitation, Anos answered that he was the founder. When the day ended, Misha waited outside until Anos finished, and as an incredible gigachat, Anos invited her to eat together at his house. As he reached for her, Anos activated his teleportation magic, a forbidden spell that was lost and known only to a handful of people. During dinner, Anos' mother worried that Misha might steal her son, so she asked, "What do you like most about my son?" After a moment of hesitation, Misha sincerely replied that she liked his big heart. Hearing that, Anos' mother felt happy because Misha found something sweet in Anos. She then went to the kitchen to make a cake. As they were walking home, Misha revealed something shocking. She had never seen her parents since birth and that the man with her was not her father. Suddenly, a magical barrier formed around them, creating a colosseum that sealed them inside. From the shadows, a man appeared and introduced himself as Demon King Leorig, claiming to be Zeps' brother. However, Leorig shrugged off his brother, saying their family didn't need a weakling like Zeps. He electrocuted him until he was charred, threatening that Anos would be the next target for not respecting the pure blood of the Demon King. Still, Anos calmly expressed that he had never cared about lineage. When they summoned a magical seal to attack him, Anos began to break the very laws of magic, destroying the magical seal. Everything started to explode, and when the dust settled, the noble decided to use his ultimate ability, forbidden origin magic that was only passed down in royal families. As Leorig hurled it toward Anos, a red flare shot up into the sky, but when the dust settled, Anos appeared completely unscathed. Anos explained that origin magic was actually the act of borrowing power from the Demon King, so it couldn't hurt him. Only Anos could influence his own origin. Despite feeling all that humiliation, Anos decided to give him one last chance by reviving his brother as a zombie. By losing his soul, Anos could completely erase his brother's magic. As the zombie approached, Anos told Leorig that the only way to save himself was to remember the beautiful moments he spent with his brother, caring for him even during the toughest times. When Leorig refused, Anos commanded him to call out his brother's name. As the memories surfaced in his mind, the field exploded from the magical power of Zeps, and Anos felt it was a shame how weak their family bond was. With the entire Colosseum collapsing, Anos threw a protective barrier over the 2 corpses, including Misha, before the whole arena was obliterated. When Misha looked at Anos, she felt disappointed at how worthless her lineage was now. Seeing the situation, Anos decided to reveal the real truth. He told everyone that he was the tyrannical Demon King, the true one. Then, on her first day at school, Misha revealed to Anos that she was the only one who failed the knowledge test. Anos was confused, wondering how that could happen. In an effort to find out, Anos investigated his memories and realized that the name of the Demon King had actually been changed to abridged. When class started, their teacher introduced the basics of all magic, sigils. But Anos immediately corrected him, telling the teacher he was wrong. Without hesitation, Anos stood up to show the truth, even though the teacher threatened to kick him out if he wasted time. With one shift in the flow of magic, Anos doubled the output of his magic effect and then returned to his seat, leaving everyone in shock. After sitting down, the teacher announced there would be group duels in the coming weeks, and those who wanted to be group leaders had to introduce themselves. The charming blonde girl was the first to step up, introducing herself as Sasha. Misha enthusiastically mentioned that Sasha was her sister, who actually lived with their parents. After that, Anos confidently introduced himself as another leader, claiming that he was the true tyrannical Demon King. In no time, everyone chose to join Sasha's team. However, Sasha approached Anos and said that even though he managed to get teammates, he was just worthless trash, a puppet controlled by magic. Hearing those words, Anos called her stupid for not understanding the flow of magic. Sasha promised to get back at him for the insult. As Sasha stepped back, her destruction magic activated, but it had no effect on Anos whatsoever. Calmly, Anos stood with his own destruction magic, warning Sasha to know her place. After class ended, Sasha appeared in front of Anos and Misha, confidently stating that she wanted to propose terms for their upcoming match. Sasha suggested that if Anos won, she would join his team, but if he lost, he would have to be her slave for life and obey all her commands. Anos, confident that he would definitely win, agreed to the terms without hesitation. A week later, they met in the forest for the duel, and there, they created a Zek pact to seal the conditions of their fight. Once the pact was sealed, a bird came and announced the start of the exam. In an instant, Sasha's team began building gizes for protection, but Misha was curious about their plan. Anos explained that he didn't intend to hide. Instead, Misha built 3 castles using her gize spells to distract Sasha's team. Inside one of the castles, Sasha tried to order her subordinates to get ready, but they soon realized that Anos was already closing in on their gize. Sasha mocked them all, calling them weak and dirty cowards. Confused, her subordinates wondered how Anos could hear them. Relaxed, Anos replied that their spell encryption was easier to break than their mother's back at night. Then, effortlessly, Anos held the castle with one hand, lifted it, and threw it into the sky before catching it again. After spinning it around, Anos hurled the castle far away, causing it to crash to the ground and crush several students trapped inside. Despite that, Sasha didn't lose hope and suggested a new attack, a Geograz spell strong enough to obliterate anyone. Right before their eyes, Sasha's team summoned powerful weapons using a combined spell and unleashed an impressive Geograz attack. Seeing their efforts, Anos felt they deserved a reward. With all his power, he shot a small flame that zipped through the grass and headed straight for their castle, ready to cause further chaos. Because they were afraid they would all be destroyed, Sasha's team set up some shields to stop Anos's attack. However, the fire Anos unleashed easily shattered all those shields, breaking into the castle and instantly burning everything to the ground. At that moment, Anos appeared before Sasha with a confident aura, and Sasha was curious how Anos could launch such a powerful attack all by himself. Anos explained that it wasn't just a Geograz spell, but his magical power was actually much greater than that. However, to Anos, none of that was important. He reminded Sasha about their agreement. Now Sasha had to be his slave and do whatever he asked. Sasha tried to say that she'd rather hide in the ground, but when Misha tried to help, Sasha told her to step aside and reluctantly agreed to follow Anos's orders. Sasha wondered why Anos was willing to include her in his team. Anos replied that her eyes were very beautiful and radiated one of the most elegant forms of magic. That day became a special moment when Anos invited them for dinner. His mom seemed happy because Anos brought home a second wife, while his dad felt proud to have raised such a great man. That night, after they arrived home, Sasha decided to talk to Anos privately. She thanked him for helping them become sisters again. Then, Sasha was curious and asked what Anos would do if his fate was being controlled by someone else. Anos firmly replied that he would annihilate anyone who dared to stand in his way. Hearing that, Sasha stepped back a bit, stating that she only kissed him as a friend and not because she liked him or anything. Anos looked at her with amusement and said, "You're a liar!" However, Sasha began to worry that their kiss might make her pregnant. To avoid a more complicated situation, Anos chose to disappear before she could drag him into paying child support, escaping that drama. The next day at school, Misha approached Anos with some important information. Sasha's birthday was the next day. Misha wondered what she could give as a gift. Suddenly, Sasha appeared, sitting at their table with a confident smile. She told Anos that her former teammates planned to join their team. However, Anos casually responded that he wasn't interested in that group of losers at all. Not long after that, their teacher walked in and began explaining that the tyrannical Demon King would soon be reincarnated. To prepare for the rebirth, one of the 7 elder demon emperors would teach them some special magic. That's when Ibis Necron stepped into the room, and Anos immediately called him by name, wondering if the Demon King still remembered his master. Their teacher promised to kick him out of the class soon, but the Demon King decided to forgive him and was curious about how they met. Anos, feeling a bit mischievous, decided to make him remember. After sifting through those old memories, Anos let him go and ordered him to start the lecture. After class ended, Anos informed the old teacher that he had infiltrated the lost memories from 2,000 years ago. However, Anos found something troubling. The teacher genuinely believed that the Demon King was Avis Dilhevia. Anos concluded that someone must have rewritten history after his death, stealing all of his glory and even erasing people's memories of his existence. Even so, there was something about Anos that felt familiar to the teacher, but the teacher decided to keep his distance. He wanted to make sure that Anos was really the Demon King, so he quickly walked away. Not long after, Anos rejoined Misha, and he noticed that Misha was holding the same letter he had found on the day of the entrance exam. Misha told him that the letter was from her guardian. As they chatted, they spotted Sasha with her former teammates, who were trying to win her back for their team. But all their efforts seemed futile, and they started to wonder why Sasha was hanging out with 2 strangers at school. Angry Sasha couldn't hold herself back. Her demon eyes sparkled, and the ground around her began to crack. She yelled at them to get out of her sight, making faces she found disgusting. The next day, their teacher began informing the students that each group had to gather magical tools for the dungeon exam, and the group leader would claim those items for their team. Once the exam started, all the students rushed into the dungeon. However, Sasha was curious why Anos was still waiting behind. Anos calmly answered her, explaining that the best way to win the exam was to find the royal staff on the lowest level of the dungeon. Interestingly, the teachers themselves considered the royal staff just a legend that never existed. But Anos was confident he could find it. As they walked through the dungeon, Anos casually told Misha that they were in his castle. They both stepped deeper inside, and Anos excitedly said that there was a cool gift in the treasure room for Sasha's birthday. But once Anos realized that today was also Misha's birthday, he was shocked and realized that they were actually twins. Not long after, they arrived at a wall that looked like a dead end. However, Anos confidently said that it was actually a secret passage. Sasha tried to use her demon eyes to look inside, but she was shocked because she couldn't see anything. Without hesitation, Anos stepped forward and broke through the wall, revealing the hidden secret passage. Once they successfully entered the deeper room, Anos explained that he had concealed his domain to activate the natural magic circle. However, as soon as Anos looked around, he realized that everything looked different from the last time he had come, and he was curious about who had manipulated this place while he was away. Finally, they arrived in front of a large door leading to the royal staff. Misha examined it closely and realized that the door was protected by anti-magic. But Anos, without a second thought, simply pushed the door open. After seeing the royal staff, Anos took Misha to a private room and asked her to choose a gift for Sasha. Misha immediately got interested in a phoenix cloak that looked very enchanting. She was sure this gift would be the best for her twin sister. A little while later, they returned to find Sasha, and Misha handed her the gift she had chosen with a smile, wishing her a happy birthday to her only twin sister. Seeing how thoughtful her sister was, Sasha promised to cherish the gift forever. Sasha then shouted at Anos, asking him to give her a little privacy so she could put on her new cloak. However, when Anos returned, the atmosphere had changed. Anos was shocked to see that Sasha had already killed Misha. Sasha began to hurl hurtful words, calling Anos a loser who had been betrayed by a kiss. But Anos thought Sasha was just acting to get attention. Anos was stunned, wondering how Sasha could destroy one of the strongest demon contracts. Sasha continued, in a condescending tone, that Misha was born just to be a worthless slave. At that moment, Sasha recited a conditioning spell on Misha, threatening to end her life if Anos tried to save her. Thinking all her plans had succeeded, Sasha tried to activate the flying spell. However, Anos quickly caught her and healed Misha's wounds. With his demon eyes shining brightly every time Anos got excited, he pointed out that he noticed Sasha's eyes were inactive when Misha wished her a happy birthday. This only changed when Sasha received her cloak. Sasha was confused, wondering why her demon eyes weren't active even though she had betrayed her. She should have felt happy since her plan had finally come to fruition. But no, instead, Sasha activated her demon eyes and shattered the walls of the dungeon with her power. Anos, not wanting to stand by, quickly activated his own eyes to hold Sasha in the air, freezing her in place. Misha, witnessing all this, immediately urged Anos to let her escape. Anos was curious and asked her to reveal the reason behind all her plans. However, he eventually decided to let her go. Misha tried to help Sasha, but Sasha immediately flew away at high speed. Now, only Anos and Misha were left. Anos told Misha to confess everything about herself. Reluctantly, Misha began to explain that she would disappear at midnight. She revealed that she was just a copy of Sasha, who was never meant to exist in the first place. Created from Sasha through fusion magic, Misha only had a lifespan of 15 years. Sasha felt as if her life had never been seen by anyone. But in the midst of all that, Misha felt happy because she finally had a friend. As Misha started to apologize for feeling like a useless burden, Anas immediately hugged her warmly, saying that he was very glad to have met her. He also encouraged her to make one wish, promising to grant it. Misha sincerely said that she wanted to one day live happily with her sister. Meanwhile, in the basement, the doors suddenly disappeared just before Sasha could leave. At that moment, Anas appeared with Misha, saying that Misha wanted to make peace with Sasha. Misha asked if Sasha really hated her, but Sasha instead chose to challenge Anas to a duel again. Sasha said she would only answer Misha's question if Anas could control his magic circle. Sasha began drawing a magic circle, but Anas already sensed her plan. Anas knew that Sasha was creating a sigil beyond her control and realized that Sasha would actually fail in the duel. Quickly, Anas activated his magic and won the duel. Finally, Sasha agreed to talk to her sister. Sasha recalled their childhood when Misha was always by her side, even when Sasha couldn't control her demon eyes. However, everyone left her, thinking she was just a replica. Sasha was determined to save Misha from disappearing at midnight on their 15th birthday. Sasha began researching a magic spell that was believed to grant eternal life. As Sasha read the spell, she told Misha that her magic circle could change their fate. However, to activate it, Sasha needed to be rejected. Sasha revealed everything she had done, explaining that it was time for Misha to hate her and choose to live without her. The plan seemed to be going smoothly when Sasha recited the spell to change their fate. But suddenly, the spell failed, and the magic circle's seal began to disappear. Misha firmly said that she would never hate Sasha, no matter what happened. Her words made Sasha fall to her knees, disappointed in herself. Sasha began begging Misha to reject her so that Sasha could save her with the spell. But Misha confidently replied that she would remain inside Sasha and never betray her. Misha also revealed to Anas how happy she was to be reunited with her sister. Misha felt that now was the time to enter Nirvana. However, Anas had a different idea. Anas told them that there was a solution for both of them to stay alive. All Anas needed to do was change the past. Since they were born as demons from two separate sources, Anas planned to merge those sources so that they could become true twins, not just copies. At that moment, Anas activated his magic, stating that he would send them back to the past. However, to use his power, they had to truly believe that Anas was the real tyrannical demon king. Suddenly, the supreme ruler broke through the ceiling and stabbed Anas in the heart. The girls were shocked to realize that Ivis was the elder from their class. With a condescending tone, Ivis began saying that they were merely vessels to resurrect the founder. Anas was confused about why Ivis wanted to revive someone who was already alive and immediately attacked him with Jigri. The elder wondered how Anas survived his attack. Anas responded that he was immortal and threw his sword, hitting the wall. Even so, Anas continued his chant and activated Revive, beginning to transport the girls through time. Shortly after, the wall opened, and the timekeeper appeared before them. The timekeeper reminded them that he had come to punish them for disrupting the flow of time. With a flash, the timekeeper grabbed Ivis and rewound time, healing his wounds as if nothing had happened. The timekeeper restored all of Ivis's power, and Ivis came back to life, ready to execute them. Anas, not standing idly by, threw Jigri at him. However, Ivis froze it, causing a massive explosion. As Ivis launched his scythe, Anas's shield shattered into pieces, and the second scythe destroyed the other shield. Before they could realize what had happened, Ivis appeared and stabbed Anas from behind. In an instant, Anas disappeared before their eyes. But unexpectedly, Anas reappeared in front of Ivis, who was shocked to see him still standing. Anas revealed that he himself was the only one who could kill him. But Ivis, not willing to back down, instantly vanished. Ivis then commanded time to stop, and a mysterious darkness enveloped them all, freezing the girls in an instant. Even though the situation seemed grim, Anas remained undefeated. He asserted that not even time could stop the power of his will. The elder, unwilling to lose, flew toward Anas with the intent to finish him off, destroying all barriers in his way. However, as the attack came, Anas quickly protected himself with a new barrier and effortlessly deflected the assault. With confidence, Anas told Misha and Sasha that he was willing to do anything to make them happy, even ready to give up all his power to destroy any enemies that threatened them. At that moment, the spell binding him broke, and a blinding golden light appeared. Sasha shouted at Anas to change their fate. Together, they declared their belief that Anas's reincarnation was the truth and that Anas was the true tyrannical demon king. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the golden light, taking all their precious memories with them. Reverting to their infant forms, they exchanged sources, perfecting their transition as twin siblings. With the girls protected in the light, Anas told the elder that he was ready to fight. Without wasting time, new magic activated, and Anas drew his destructive sword, prepared to obliterate his enemy. Before the demon could move, Anos stabbed it deeply in the face. He quickly realized that the demon wasn't healing, and without hesitation, Anos began to kill it with just a single motion. In an instant, the demon exploded, bringing the battle to a peaceful end. After that, Anos summoned the elder Ibis back and informed him that he had executed the demon and the guardian controlling its body with just a flick of his finger. Anos then restored Ibis's memories and asked him to spy on the other elders until they figured out who erased their memories. At that moment, the golden light began to fade, and the girls wondered if their spell had worked. Anos nodded and told them that it had indeed succeeded, reassuring them that neither of them would disappear at midnight. Once outside, Sasha felt a wave of happiness that they were both still alive. Filled with regret, Sasha apologized to Misha for treating her poorly for so many years. Before they left, Anos gave Misha an ice ring shaped like a lotus leaf. This ring had extraordinary power. It could freeze entire oceans in an instant. Anos said with a smile, "I found it in a chamber within the prison, and I thought it would make the perfect birthday present for you." The next day in class, Sasha eagerly awaited their teacher to announce their perfect score from the underground exam. However, when the teacher arrived, there was another announcement. It turned out that a transfer student would be joining their class, and this student was a master of magical swords. The teacher began explaining that Anos's special staff had gone missing, but since it wasn't graded before it disappeared, I can only give your team 70 points. Sasha immediately felt the decision was unfair. Hybrids and nobles deserve equal treatment, she shouted. Unfortunately, the teacher wasn't pleased with Sasha's boldness. "Shut your filthy mouth," the teacher threatened, "or I'll expel you from school." In that tense moment, Anos appeared in front of the student who was thought to be the thief. With confidence, Anos announced that the student had found the thief, calling them ugly and useless. After pulling the royal staff from his chest, Anos handed it to the teacher, adding, "You're just a worthless virgin." After class, Misa thanked Anos for exposing the thief. However, Sasha quickly told her to stay away from her boyfriend. Still, Misa didn't back down. She told Anos that she was part of the Unitarian group, which hoped to unite the demon races, and she invited Anos to join her because only the Demon King could make a real difference. So that night, as the girls saw him, they immediately felt something thrilling. Sasha's face was flushed, and they wondered, thinking how his sword could pierce deep into them, all the way to the spine. Imagining that possibility, they couldn't help but feel like they might end up stuck in a wheelchair the next day. The next day at the arena, the students tried to pull out the magical sword that was stuck in the ground. However, Sasha quickly realized that the sword was draining their magical power, and it seemed like there was no hope of succeeding. Suddenly, the two demon emperors, Geos and Idol, appeared before them. Idol began to speak, declaring that only a truly worthy student could pull the sword and be allowed to compete in the magical sword tournament. Curious, Sasha asked why Anos didn't try to pull out the sword. Was the sword too strong for Anos? However, with immense power, Anos forced the sword to emit an incredibly strong aura, and in an instant, the sword flew into his hand. The sight was truly impressive. Seeing this, Geos suggested fighting Anos, but suddenly, an unknown student drew another sword, and they all realized that the student was the transfer student named Lei. Without hesitation, Idol decided to challenge him. Idol tried to attack, but Lei easily knocked him down. Anos then defeated Geos like trash, showing just how powerful he really was. In class, Lei approached Anos and asked to join his team. However, Amelia tried to warn him that Anos wasn't the right person and couldn't lead the royal family. Lei casually dismissed the school rules, saying they were as useless as his dating life. Anos, though slightly inspired by his words, still rejected his request and told him to join another team. Anos then told Misa and her group to join Lei and challenge him. He said he would only accept them if they could impress him. The next day, as the birds chirped, signaling the start of the duel, Lei informed the girls that he would face Anos. As they prepared to battle the forces, Misha suddenly summoned a giant ice castle from the ground. Seeing this, Sasha wondered how Misha could be so powerful. Misha thought it was all thanks to the power of her ice ring. Shortly after, Anos appeared in front of Lei, ready to fight and show who was truly stronger. As they saw the monster castle in the middle of the forest, Anos immediately realized that Lei was supporting his team with his magic power. Lei tried to even the fight, so Anos decided to strike with a large tree branch, relying on the power of nature to aid him. Meanwhile, Sasha managed to dodge the monster's sword blade and quickly used mind communication. Anos gave her instructions to team up with Misha and destroy the monster with Geograze. However, Sasha felt they weren't strong enough to do that. But Misha refused to give up. Boldly, Misha activated a siege spell and summoned hellfire mortars, ready to destroy anything in her way. At the same time, Sasha also prepared her ultimate spell. When Misha fired her weapon, its energy fused with Sasha's spell, launching Geograze and blowing a huge hole in the monster's body, defeating it. They were both stunned, wondering how they could be this strong. However, Misa quickly followed up by striking Sasha from behind. Meanwhile, Anos, not wanting to be left out, playfully slapped Lei on the butt. As Lei attacked with his sword, his strike missed, but they continued clashing before Lei jumped back to dodge. On the other side of the field, Sasha was impressed by Misa's ability to hide. Sasha decided to show off her strength with her majestic phoenix cloak. Misa thought she could defeat Sasha by any means, and at that moment, the monster tried to attack again. But Misha wasn't backing down. She appeared just in time to give support. As they both attacked together, the girls unleashed their fire and ice magic, combining it into a fusion spell. A powerful tornado immediately sent Misa flying and knocked the monster to the side. They both realized that their power grew stronger when they worked together. Just then, an explosion shook the forest, startling them. They quickly realized that Anos and Lei were preparing to destroy the entire area with one massive clash. Strong winds began to blow, and when the clash happened, thick dust erupted all around the forest. Anos revealed that this was the first time he had truly fought since his reincarnation, and he looked excited. Lei saw Anos as a worthy opponent and stepped forward, ready to finish him off. But Anos allowed him to split his previous power, then revealed that he actually had the upper hand. Lei realized he might have died if this were a real weapon, so he decided to surrender. Even so, Lei wondered if they had met before because something felt familiar. Anos casually replied that he was the Demon King and welcomed Lei to his team as if they had been friends all along. That night at his house, Anos' young mother started celebrating the growth of his harem. But unfortunately, the girls only saw her as an ugly woman they considered useless. They thought she was disgusting and better off staying away from Anos. The next day at school, Amelia announced that Lei and Anos had been chosen to fight in the magic sword tournament. She also told them to prepare their swords before the event began. However, after class, Anos told Lei that he was suspicious that the royal family at the academy had actually recruited him for the tournament. At that moment, Misa arrived and told them that one of the 7 elder emperors was at the Union Tower. They rushed to the tower, and when they arrived, Melhace informed Anos that he had been waiting for his reincarnation for 2,000 years. Melhace said that half of his memories had been erased after his death, but his soul never forgot Anos. Anos started to think that Abos Delhevia might be behind all of this, and he wondered who had really chosen him for the tournament. That night, when Anos arrived home, he found that Misha had already cooked dinner for him, just like a good wife. After they finished eating, Anos offered to take her on a date, while thinking that Misha could be a better wife than Sasha. Misha, hearing this, got excited and was told to choose the place she wanted to visit. The next day, they arrived at a magic model shop for their date. However, Anos wondered, how could this be better than eating at a restaurant? Inside the shop, Anos started noticing various model houses on display and quickly realized that Misha had made them. When Misha took him to the workshop, she showed him how to use her ice magic to create a model of their dinner. Anos was impressed with her work and decided to try making one himself. As Anos summoned his magic, the shop owner, watching him, immediately thought Anos could sell the model for $1 million. However, Anos clearly didn't want to sell it and quickly told the shop owner to step aside. That day, Misha began to admire Anos' creation as if it were a precious little treasure. With a bit of magic, Anos transformed his work into a beautiful ring and placed it on her finger. Anos told Misha that she could keep it forever because all he wanted was for her to always be by his side. While they were having lunch at a restaurant, a mysterious cat suddenly appeared in front of Anos. Misha immediately realized that it was Lord Ivas. Ivas started telling Anos about the Unitarian group, which was led by a mysterious man. Strangely, even the members of the group didn't know who the mysterious man was. Anos then instructed Misha to keep an eye on the tournament and be cautious of any traps they might be planning. That night, when Anos and Misha arrived at the hospital, Anos decided to look around. Just then, Lei showed up and wondered why they were there. Anos said they were on an outing, but Lei didn't seem to believe it and thought it was all just a lie. Lei told them that his mother was sick and he had come to stay by her side, thinking it was just an ordinary illness. With kindness, Anos offered to heal her with magic, but Lei replied that there was no hope for her, though he still thanked Anos for the offer. A few days later, Lord Ivas informed Anos about some of the other demon emperors who were planning to lure him into a trap during the fight. Anos thought that retreating was the right decision and told him that he planned to lure Avuz Dilhevia out of hiding. In the arena, as the announcer's bird introduced the reigning champion, everyone began to realize that Anos wasn't there and assumed he was a coward for backing out of the fight. Meanwhile, in the tunnel, Anos waited for Avuz Dilhevia to appear in the arena. Anos thought that he could lure Avuz into the trap he had set. However, while waiting, Anos started hearing various insults. His mother suddenly shouted, cheering him on, saying that Anos would become the Demon King and kick everyone's butt once he took the throne. At that moment, his father also arrived in the tunnel, bringing a special magic sword that he had made for the duel. His father said that Anos' victory would prove that even a hybrid could become the Demon King. Hearing those words, Anos realized that retreating was not an option. Anos then told Misa that he would destroy every escape route from the trap. With determination, Anos set off and leapt onto the arena floor, impressing all the girls. With his sword drawn, Anos vowed to defeat the man in an instant to prove that he was the true Demon King. As the man started attacking with full force, Anos easily dodged and jumped to the other side. Seeing Anos evade, the man became furious and hurled a water fang at him. However, Anos simply destroyed the attack with a single slash. A strong wind blew toward the champion, and in an instant, his sword shattered, causing him to fall like a loser. At that moment, the bird in the arena announced Anos as the winner. But not long after, Amelia appeared furious and intended to eliminate him. In the waiting room, Anos was sitting calmly when Lei entered, seemingly ready to attack him. However, Lei seemed to be trapped in his own thoughts. After that exchange, they parted ways, and Lei vowed to defeat Anos in the final. Once Lei left, Anos told Misa that Lei was wearing a mysterious collar, and it was possible that Lei was willing to sacrifice himself for his sick mother. On the same day, Anos managed to defeat his opponents. The students began to wonder if Anos would try again to actually win the competition this time. That night, his mother seemed very eager to keep Anos' large sword, knowing that Anos wouldn't be allowed to continue in the tournament if his sword was lost. Anos handed his sword to his mother, who nearly dropped it because of its weight. Shortly after that, Anos and Misa arrived at the hospital, where they found Lei's mother lying sick due to a spirit disease. The woman seemed to have lost all her source and magic. Anos told Misa that he felt like he was about to disappear, realizing that he was half spirit and half demon. However, Misa wondered how Lei could be a noble while his mother was a hybrid. Anos began to think that maybe the woman wasn't Lei's biological mother, and he wondered if there was a way to save her. At that moment, the woman woke up and started to realize who she was. She told Anos that Lei always talked about him, even though Lei was mostly unconscious. Anos wondered if the woman knew that Lei was a hostage of the royalist organization. The woman nodded, saying that she knew, and that it was the only way to treat him. Anos wondered if he could heal her, but the woman explained that she was half spirit. She could only exist if everyone believed in her source. As for Lei, the woman added that Lei was a special child who always loved swordplay, but Lei felt sad because he never found a worthy opponent until he met Anos. Anos was confident he could defeat Lei, but he didn't want to be the reason his mother died. So, Anos tried to cast a spell, telling Misa to use her spirit magic and flow her source into the woman. However, Anos reminded Misa not to lose all her source, as it would be impossible to revive either of them. Nevertheless, Misa was determined to save her, and immediately agreed. As the new spell activated, Misa's source began flowing into the woman. At the same time, Anos' mother, Isabella, and her group were on their way home when Amelia appeared before them. Amelia informed them that the steering committee was supposed to hold Anos' sword for the final. However, Anos' mother quickly stepped back, and Amelia thought violence was the solution. Amelia unleashed a powerful energy ball, nearly destroying everything. When Isabella realized she was hurt, Amelia fired an even stronger ball. Fortunately, the girls protected her with magic spells, creating a magical barrier, but the explosion was strong enough to throw them back. After seeing the injured girls, Isabella wondered why their teacher was attacking her own students. But Amelia simply called them worthless, dirty hybrids who didn't deserve to be in her class in the first place. Amelia came to take revenge on Anos for humiliating her brother in the arena and believed everyone else could rot in hell because they weren't nobles. As Amelia released her terrifying energy, the girls tried to protect themselves. One of them even told Isabella to run away. However, Amelia mocked them, saying they were too weak, and raised her energy to the point of draining them. Despite being in a desperate situation, the girls refused to give up. Amelia then cast a fire spell, intending to burn them to ashes. With her rage growing, Amelia unleashed an energy blast at the girls, shattering their shield and turning them into burnt toast. With no hesitation, Amelia fired another energy blast to annihilate Isabella. But Anos bravely appeared in front of her, taking the brunt of the explosion. Anos called Amelia a disgusting and disgraceful piece of trash, then restrained her with a spell. At that moment, Anos healed his mother's wounds and revived all the girls, telling them he would never forget their bravery. As he approached his teacher, Anos told her he would punish her for being so cruel, and in an instant, they disappeared into the arena. Before the teacher could escape, Anos stabbed her with his sword, reminding her that he would only spare her life if Amelia acknowledged him as the tyrannical demon king. The pain grew worse. Amelia finally called him the Demon King, but Anos sensed that Amelia was only desperate to survive. With that, Anos sent her straight to hell. However, Anos soon cast a spell, and Amelia woke up in a new body. Anos told Amelia that she was now a hybrid and had to say goodbye to her nobility. It was her worst nightmare, and Amelia tried to end her own life. But Anos told her that he had cursed her to return to this body forever, before disappearing from the arena. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Lei sneaked up on Misa, curious as to why she was there. Misa explained that she was sharing her strength with her mother, hoping to save her and free her from the royalist organization. Happy to hear her good intentions, Lei suddenly became angry because Misa had lost too much of her soul. Without warning, Lei knocked Misa unconscious, then laid her down on the couch. At that moment, Lei realized his mother had regained consciousness. Filled with emotion, his mother began expressing her desire to rest in peace. She shared how happy she was to have found Lei after being abandoned by her family, and how proud she was to be Lei's mother. However, As Lei watched her fall unconscious again, he decided to leave the room, feeling relieved to have found closure. Just then, Anos entered and saw Lei leaving the hospital. The next day, the two faced off in the much-anticipated duel. The fight was set to begin, with both wearing spirit-draining bracelets that would limit their magical powers. Once the duel began, Lei leaped toward Anos, narrowly avoiding his sword strike. As their weapons clashed, Lei wondered how Anos remained so strong despite wearing the bracelet. It was revealed that Anos' bracelet was actually just an ordinary piece of jewelry. However, Lei had no intention of killing Anos. The problem was that Lei's contractual sword pierced his source of power, ready to end it all. Lei told Anos that he had just broken his contract with the royalist group and his mother would soon be disposed of. Lei felt his life would end after the sword destroyed his source and didn't want to drag Anos down with him. Even so, Lei promised he would give him a good fight before taking his last breath, ready to accept the challenge. Anos challenged him to give it his all, then struck with his sword. Everything happened so fast, as if they were moving too quickly to be seen. Lei managed to dodge Anos' attack, then stabbed his hand and leaped away before striking again with lightning speed, slashing Anos' body. As they clashed, both attacked with their swords. Anos slashed at Lei, wondering who would come out victorious. They struck again, and in the chaos, Anos lost his arm. However, Lei couldn't avoid the next attack, and his sword shattered as Anos drove his blade into Lei's heart. At that moment, a magic spell was activated, and the floor began sinking into the ground, pulling everything into a dimensional prison. Anos noticed the bird, which suddenly transformed into Elder Melhace. Melhace happily informed Anos that he had been waiting for this opportunity to eliminate him, and now, with half of Anos' magic drained by the bracelet, Melhace was confident this would be an easy elimination. However, things didn't go as planned. Two other old emperors appeared from a portal to support Melhace, but Anos remained calm and unaffected. Lei quickly killed the old emperors, and then Anos froze them with revived magic. Melhace, confused, wondered how Lei could still be alive. Lei then explained that Anos had destroyed his sword contract in his final strike. Even so, Melhace still felt superior. In the process, it was revealed that Lei's mother was trapped inside the dimensional portal. Melhace told Lei that he would only release her if Lei agreed to become a royalist puppet again. In fact, Melhace promised to cure his mother's illness as well. Lei didn't stay idle. He threw his sword and leaped, nearly entering the portal, determined to eliminate Melhace. From his movement, the portal began emitting darkness, and Anos realized it was the same darkness he had used to separate the four realms 2 million years ago. As Melhace unleashed that darkness, Anos deflected it with his shield but couldn't unmask Melhace. Melhace tried to convince Anos that he was trapped, but his arm began to float, reaching out to grab a terrified Melhace. In a panic, Melhace rushed toward the portal, trying to escape his fate. At the same time, the darkness attempted to break through Anos' shield, and suddenly, a new portal appeared in front of Lei. However, Anos quickly cast an anti-demon spell to protect him. While shielding himself, Anos warned Lei that he had overused his power, and wondered if Lei could help. Lei desired a massive sword made from anti-demon magic, hoping to destroy all the darkness in front of him. And, like magic, a giant sword formed right before him. Lei thought with this weapon, he could escape the dark world by slaying all his enemies. As the cover disappeared, Lei attempted to slash through the darkness, but his attack was reflected back and his sword broke. However, Anos quickly covered for him before Lei turned to stone, even though Lei felt all hope was lost. In despair, Lei called himself a loser and believed he deserved to be abandoned. Suddenly, his mother woke up, offering her support. Lei panicked, afraid she would disappear forever. However, she assured him that she would always be with him and transformed into a mighty sword. With this new power, Lei shattered the darkness and began cutting down anything that stood in his way. When Lei reached the portal, he flew forward with a powerful light, destroying all the darkness and even breaking through Melhace's impossible dimension. Once Lei was finished, his mother appeared, saying how proud she was of him before fading from sight. Lei felt a deep sadness, but Anos told him that his mother could be resurrected. However, while they were talking, Elder Melhace believed the battle wasn't over and began preparing another dark dimension to eliminate them before they realized it. Anos suddenly appeared behind him, and Melhace wondered how Anos had entered his absolute space. In an instant, Melhace trapped Anos inside Banu Levan and unleashed an explosion of power. However, despite the deafening blast, Anos was completely unharmed. Not giving up, Melhace created another dark realm to surround him. But strangely, the darkness vanished, leaving Melhace in shock. He couldn't believe how Anos survived in such a situation. With confidence, Anos summoned his mighty sword, revealing that he had regained his full power and was ready to end it all. Anos unleashed a single slash that shattered Melhace's disguise. Melhace thought he had dodged it, but suddenly he fell to the ground, confused about how he got caught. Anos then told him it was impossible to avoid his sharp blade. In desperation, Melhace tried to summon a portal to escape, but the portal shattered instantly. As Melhace tried to create more portals, each one was destroyed one after another, as if some greater force was out there. With one precise slash, Anos struck him, destroying the evil within and restoring his mind. Immediately, a strong light began to spread around them, revealing the true battlefield. Melhace told Aenos that he had been attacked the night after they met at the tower, and since then, he had lost control of his mind. Before their eyes, the two older emperors were summoned from the ground. Aenos concluded that their minds had been merged and taken over. He speculated that the source of their troubles might be controlled by abridged Delhedia, so he decided to bring him back to life. However, a sudden explosion destroyed the source, and they saw the figure of a mysterious man in the darkness. At that moment, the spell binding them began to fade, and the students around them started wondering who had actually won the duel. As the smoke cleared, they found Lay unconscious on the ground, while Aenos was declared the winner. In his victory speech, Aenos said that it was his sword that did all the hard work and mentioned his father as a national hero. Afterward, Aenos realized how sad Lay was about losing his mother, so he decided to heal his wound. With hope, Aenos brought his mother back to life, and Lay was overjoyed to be reunited with her. After that, Sasha gave Aenos a sword as a symbol of his victory. Smiling, Sasha said she always knew Aenos would win and promised to always be by his side. The next day, the atmosphere at school felt different when a new teacher introduced himself as Manu's teacher. Manu's teacher claimed that they would be replacing their old teacher, who had mysteriously disappeared from the school. The new teacher then announced plans for a trip to the human realm and an inter-academy class at the Hero Academy. However, the students felt uneasy. They had never been to the human realm before and wondered if the journey would be safe. The fear of possibly being killed in their sleep began to haunt their minds. After class, Aenos decided to train his friends. He thought they might face some reincarnated heroes, so he wanted to prepare them for the battles ahead. As Misha created an ice sword for Lay, the mood lightened. Lay started jumping on the ice, trying to slash at Aenos. However, Aenos easily broke his sword and punched him to the ground, calling Lay a weak and embarrassing person. That night, Elder Melhace contacted Aenos and told him that he had managed to revive two other elders. However, when they gathered, they realized their memories had also been stolen. Melhace suspected the human realm was to blame and explained that the Hero Academy had begun training reincarnated heroes to prepare for a possible war with their territory. The tension grew, and Aenos knew they had to be ready for whatever was coming. After a few days passed, the students were finally ready to depart for the human realm. But before they knew it, Aenos teleported them in an instant and decided to explore the city. Once they arrived in the city, they immediately noticed the stark difference between the human realm and the demon realm. Calm and peace filled the atmosphere, surprising Aenos a little. Upon arriving at the Hero Academy, they encountered a girl who seemed confused, wondering where they came from. After learning that they were from the Demon King Academy, the girl introduced herself as Eleanor. They quickly realized that Eleanor was their senior. Aenos, who was very interested in their hero's legend, asked Eleanor to show them around the school. Before long, they came across a painting that caught their attention. Aenos explained to Sasha that the painting depicted their hero, Canon. Then, while in the library, Eleanor revealed a book containing the hero's legend. Eleanor shared how the hero had defeated the tyrannical Demon King. Hearing this story, Sasha immediately became enraged. She shouted that the Demon King was never defeated by their hero, but instead sacrificed himself to create peace throughout the universe. Seeing Sasha on the verge of an outburst, Aenos quickly tried to calm her down. When Sasha wondered who the Demon King in their history books truly was, Eleanor calmly replied that the Demon King was abridged Delhedia. Eleanor then explained that there were 4 heroes who had reincarnated, each from different eras. Suddenly, a student appeared before them. With a condescending tone, the student said that the Demon King must have been the villain of the world and could never have sacrificed himself to create peace. The student mocked them as losers who doubted the history books and told them to accept their defeat right away. The student introduced himself as Ledriano, claiming to be the reincarnation of the first hero Canon and a member of the elite class. At that moment, another student appeared, introducing himself as Laos. Laos claimed to be the 3rd reincarnation. However, Aenos felt they were not the reincarnations of the hero and called them a pair of wannabe heroes. Laos thought he could win and tried to make Aenos eat his words by charging at him, launching a magical blast. But Aenos effortlessly destroyed it in an instant, knocking him to the ground. As Laos tried to attack again, Ledriano ordered him to accept the reality that he was a pathetic loser, then apologized to Aenos for the trouble caused. Outside the academy, Eleanor wondered if Aenos was a reincarnation. Aenos nodded and explained that he indeed was, hoping to meet the real hero when he returned to his life. However, before they left, Eleanor told him that the hero Canon had disappeared, having been killed 2,000 years ago. Even with all her resources, Eleanor added, she was no longer the hero they once remembered. A few days later, a group of seniors appeared before Aenos. The leader introduced himself as Rivist and demanded to know how they arrived before anyone else. Aenos simply replied that it was none of his business, while telling him to get his ugly face out of sight. That day, in the hall, the headmaster of the Hero Academy introduced himself as Diego. Diego announced that he would be their instructor for the Inter-Academy class. To start, Diego called out a few random objects from the table and told the students they had to showcase their magic in a friendly display. Diego then selected Ledriano as their representative, while teacher Manu chose Rivas to represent the Demon Academy. Immediately, Ledriano unleashed hero magic from his rusted sword, restoring it in an instant and shattering a statue, impressing everyone. Rivas, feeling pressured, decided to reveal his own abilities. However, as Rivas attempted to cast his spell, it instantly vanished. When he tried again, the spell disappeared once more. Ledriano began to question whether the Demon King Academy was filled with terrible losers. Anos had grown tired of all their underhanded tricks. He revealed that they had cast Lihid and destroyed the concealment spell to seal demon magic. In an instant, the spell broke, and the cloth grew, absorbing all the spells cast and turning them into monsters. However, using the Lihid spell, Anos managed to dispel the monsters and created a holy sword right before their eyes. The headmaster was shocked by the sight, while Ledriano commented that Anos truly was the reincarnation of the tyrannical Demon King.